Hi, this is Emmy from the Graveyard Shift interviewing David Frankel. Mr. Frankel, can you tell us a little bit about this production?
This is a production of the Tampa Repertory Theatre, which is a professional theater company here in Tampa that I co-founded about 6.5 years ago. This is our sixth season of production, and we've been lucky enough to be able to utilize this space for a number of our productions, but we are not part of USF.
Okay, so the Tampa Repertory Theatre is doing a production here at this particular location.
Yes.
Now, have you done all of your productions here at this location, or have you used other locations?
No, we have used several different spaces. We're what is called an itinerant company. We don't have our own theater space, so we rent venues in the Tampa area. We've performed a number of times in the studio theater at Hillsborough Community College in Ybor City. We've utilized the Tampa Preparatory School a couple of times. And as I said, we've been able to utilize Studio 120 here on the Tampa USF campus a number of times.
That's great. And when you're doing these productions, not just this one, but any other productions that you do you utilize, or I should say, what kind of talent do you utilize? Do you utilize just student actors, or do you get...
No. We cast from the Tampa theater community. As I said, we're a professional company. We pay the actors and designers, stage managers. And so we usually have open casting calls occasionally for particular parts in particular plays. I'll reach out to individuals ahead of time to see if they're available because I think the part is particularly good for them. We've had students involved one or two times in small parts and as volunteer assistants backstage. But the actors are primarily, as I said, people from the Tampa theater community. Same actors that you might see at Job Site or Stageworks or some of the other theater companies in town.
Well, that's wonderful. So then, a lot of the audience members would see, fairly familiar faces when they come to these productions.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, of course, we use different actors as well because we're often running at the same time, and actors can only be in one place at a time, most of them. We have a couple of actors that we've used in a number of productions because they feel like members of the company. But we also usually have some people in productions that we haven't used before, and sometimes people who haven't done much else because they're new to the community sometimes. So it's a mixture. So audiences, I think, see a mixture of people that they've seen and people that they haven't seen. But what they do see are actors who are really good.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about this particular production? Like maybe, first of all, it's Grounded. It's called Grounded. And why exactly did you choose this production?
So Grounded is a play by a playwright named George Brandt. It is relatively recent. It was originally done, I think, in 2012. Its first production was in California, and then it was in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then it had an off-Broadway production in New York, and then it had another production in New York that Anne Hathaway was in, and it is supposed to be being made into a film. It's a really interesting play about a U.S. Air Force fighter pilot who, when she is on leave, gets pregnant and therefore has to eventually leave the Air Force. She has a child and is out of the Air Force for about 3 years, and then is able to go back in, but she goes back in as an operator of an unmanned aerial vehicle, which puts her in a very different kind of position than she was in when she was flying an F-16. And so the play really kind of explores her journey, and through that looks at some of the issues involved with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and particularly flying and the use of drones and things like that. So it's still, I think, an incredibly relevant play. But more than the relevance, it's a good play because it gives us a really insightful portrait of a particular person but that person's struggle speaks, I think, to a lot of different people. You don't have to be an Air Force pilot to kind of understand who she is and what she goes through. And it's a really interesting play in terms of the language and how the story unfolds. So those were all things that were attractive about it. It also fit into the other plays that we chose for this season, all of which, in one way or another, are really sort of focused on the challenge of discovering who you really are. Yeah, so those are some of the reasons why we picked it.
Wow.
And I had a great actress
Which
lined
is
up to play the part.
and Amelia Sargent. Correct?
Yes, yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, it sounds like a fantastic play, a fantastic story. Definitely a lot in there for a lot of different people in the audience to kind of connect with. I'm interested in the setup you have here, sir. So can you give me a little bit of an idea? Why did you choose this type of stage layout and design when you went with this? You know.
Well, the Studio 120 is, although technically a flexible seating space, it's a lot easier to leave the seats in the configuration that they're normally in, which is an audience on two sides. And for this particular play, we felt that we really wanted the focus to be on Amelia. And there's not a lot of set that's required by the play. It in a lot of ways asks the audience to sort of use their imagination to follow her as she tells her story in the same way that if I were to tell you a story about my past, I could tell you about my trip to Europe and we would never leave this room. But if I'm able to sort of bring you there through the way that I tell the story and the words that I use and the pictures that I paint, well, I don't have to have the Eiffel Tower right next to me.
Right.
And so in talking with Leah Umberger, who is the scenic designer, we wanted to create a pattern on the floor that was suggestive both of the desert territories that the pilot flew over when she was flying F-16s, but also the desert that she drives through from Las Vegas to Creech Air Force Base, which is where she's stationed when she's operating the unmanned aerial vehicles. And it has some other resonances within the context of the play, which I don't want to give away. But,
No, of course not.
We, as a company, I mean, we like being in spaces like this, like the Studio Theater at HCC, because we like to create intimate theater experiences. And so the audience is really close to the performance here. And we hope that this kind of setting, just the painted rectangle on the floor, really will bring them into the performance.
I think you've accomplished that definitely. I mean, I like this. Definitely with the lights off, and it gives a much more, especially with this kind of space, it gives a much more intimate, feel and take to the.
Yeah. And one of the great things about the floor too, and because Leah's a really fine scenic designer, she's aware of what lighting can bring to the play. And Anthony Vito, who is our lighting designer, was able to take advantage of the sort of neutral colors of the floor, and so we can make it go different colors because of the lights that he puts on it, and it looks entirely different depending on which lights he's got on, and so that allows us to help in the telling of the story without being too sort of heavy-handed about it.
That's great. So can you tell us on this play, I know it's opening very soon, and can you tell us it's opening?
Yeah, we open Thursday night, play Thursday through Sunday for the next 3 weekends, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m., and Sundays at 3 p.m. There's information and tickets available on our website, which is just tamparep.org. Very reasonably priced tickets, and we would love to see people come and see the show.
Great. Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Emmy.